Hey everybody, it's Mr. Pyers. What we're going to do is talk about creating a graphic poster. So here's some examples of what you see that are created. There's some sports athletes, but it can be of really anything. Here's one of my favorite players, Luis Figo. That's a poster I saw of him. And I ended up creating my own right here on Pixlr Editor just the other day. So I'm going to show you some simple tools to use and then also some enhancements you can create as you work a little bit more with Pixlr Editor. So let's go to the tutorial. So you get to the Pixlr Editor page, might have some of your previous works there. Just click on, I'm just going to click on the one that I created right there with all my layers. We're going to go back. I'll just click on that again, I'm sorry. And I'm going to go to Open Image to start a new project. Here I'm going to upload the pictures I want to use for my project. So one is going to be this one here, so a new project file will open up. That's set up as my background. I can collapse my history tool if I want to create some more space. And I want to unlock that layer so I can make it larger or smaller. I'll use the navigator here to zap back. Those are just some. Now if I want to add another picture, I hit the plus sign there and hit image. And I select another image I want to upload into this file. There you go. So now you can see I have two layers on there. I have the move tool, and I can also make the images larger or smaller. I don't have to hold the shift key to do this. They won't get warped. So now it's about organizing my space for my poster. So I think I'm going to put the player up close in the bottom right. So I'm just going to stretch out the image. Again, I don't have to hold the shift key here. And I just want to do mostly a headshot there. But I want to fill the background with that. You can also fill backgrounds with like other colors later on, but I'm going to use the background from this photograph of him. I'm putting him to the right because I believe on the left I want to include that action shot of him on the field playing. So now I'm going to locate where I want that. So it's like we're creating a graphic collage. Just like in Photoshop, if I want to use the transparency slider, I can click right here on the left of the layer and it gives me a transparency slider right here. So I can see how things line up and see both photos at the same time if they're overlapping. I can leave it like this, of course, for like a smoky effect, but I really don't need to for my taste anyways. So I'm just going to bring that. I want all the rich colors, and I'll click an X out of that. At this time, I'm going to select the mask tool right there. Now on the mask tool, there's a few options, but when you want to add something back to the mask, you click on add. When you want to take something away, you click on take away. I'm going to take the brush. So I'm on the photo of the two players, and I'm going to put remove from mask. And you're going to see a red line appears, and then when you let go of the mouse, it disappears. My opacity is set to 100%, so I'm erasing 100% of it. Now if I select add, you'll see it's in green, and that heals the space. And again, I'm adding 100% of the photo back. What I'm going to do is check my brush. This is how I change my brush size and the softness of it to the hardness of it, depending on how I want to add and erase edges. The step tool is really not needed here, so I would avoid using that. So you can always use the brush tool there. Okay, I'm going to bring my opacity down because I'm going to start erasing the outer edges of that photo so it merges nicely with the background. I'm going to make sure I have on remove from mask, and I'm going to increase my brush size. So every click I do takes about 40% away of the photo, just like on Photoshop. I'm going to start to use my little artistry here and get some blendability. If these ads pop up, X them out if they annoy you. You get that because this is a free version. It's okay if we're on the mask, so it's okay if you erase a little bit too much of your image out. You can bring it back by adding it in later. So this is not like using an eraser, just like using the mask tool on Photoshop. You can see how I cut off part of his head there. I'm just using 2 images in mine. You can use multiple images. Remember, my mask tool is only affecting this photograph, not the other photograph. So I'll go back to mask here. I'm going to go to add. Select the brush for sure. Got to use the brush. And I'm going to start adding some things that I lost. Again, I'm adding about 40% at a time. Of course, make sure to change the brush size that's appropriate for you. I'm going to start really creating like a nice smoky transition from one photo into the other. So this is all about the artistry behind it now. I'm doing a quick and dirty one. So once I complete the work on this masked image, I'm going to select the blur tool. Because that defender in it, the guy in the white shirt, I'm going to select, you can do smudge, sharpen, or blur, but I want to blur him. So I select the blur, and I'm going to use this brush. And every click I do starts to blur and blur out the figure. Because I don't want him to really be an important factor in the poster. I want him to be softened away so he doesn't stand out very much. I can also do that with any part of the picture too, just to blend it away. Pretty happy with that. Now I'm using a little bit of the smudge tool and the blur tool to kind of just soften some edges. Pretty happy with that approach. The big T is the text tool, so I can click on that and then I just click on the surface. It might ask me to add the text layer, and I'll hit add, and a new layer appears. That's a text layer. It's going to appear with some like wording on it, but you just type over that. I'm going to move my text box over, and you can shrink your text box too. Again, just double click inside of it, and you can type away. I'm going to put his name, the player name here. It will be in the default font like Arial, and then we can adjust it. Again, I can move it wherever I want. And when I want to work on it, I have to make sure I am not on the move tool anymore, that I'm on the text, and I'll double click on that, highlight it, and I can now adjust my font. There's about 100 fonts on here, so you can really go through a ton. Just try out a bunch of different ones. It's kind of a bummer my box is in front of like the lettering, because it does change every time you select a new one. So I'm just going to try a few different ones that I feel will fit. Cool, I think I'm going to go with that one. And now what I could also do is change the scale of it. So if I highlight it again, I can change the size from like really big to really small. It could be cool to have it really big like that, overlapping, but I think I'm just going to keep it nice and clean and neat. Right there, floating over. A couple text options you have on the settings tool right here on this bar. You can change like the letter spacing, so if you want the letters further apart, and even the line spacing. You can make it bold there as well. And here I'm going to work on shadow, so if I click shadow, I'm going to want a black color, drop shadow. You can blur it. don't really notice much here, but you're going to see in a second, you'll see it appear. There's the vertical positioning, you'll see it shift for a drop shadow. The horizontal, but it's the opacity's at 30. If I put it to 70, it's going to have a bolder backdrop. There we go. Now it gives it some three-dimensionality. And that looks pretty good. I can merge my layers later, but there we go. I created a poster. Now, under the filter tool, there's a lot of other options in terms of shading, some effects you can put into it as well. But good luck, everybody. Try a few options here.